resources. It would provide 100% of the resources. They would be provided for students to allow them the opportunity to excel in 3 areas: in the classroom, in fine arts, and in athletics. We feel coming out of the pandemic, it's important to be able to educate the whole child. We also know from the pandemic data that those students who learned in person actually outperformed their counterparts who learned virtually at home on the computer. So we have to keep our schools safe, have to keep our health and safety protocols in place. We cannot allow a public health crisis to become a generational education crisis, particularly for our students who are economically disadvantaged. We're working closely with our parents, asking them to conduct daily health screenings, making sure they're not sending kids to school if they're not feeling well, keeping our campuses clean. That's a high priority. Good hand hygiene. We are strongly encouraging masks after a couple court battles. That's where we landed. And social distancing where possible. Social distancing is tough in older schools. So in the media, we've been saddled with our 2019 data, but if we look at the last batch of valid and reliable data in the middle of the year 2020, we actually see Fort Worth ISD was on a very strong trajectory in English, in reading in Spanish, and mathematics. In fact, the overall accountability score was went from 67 to 79.9. We missed it by 1/10 of 1%, and our predictive data told us we'd be an 83 or 84. Fort Worth ISD probably was the district most disappointed that we're unable to take the spring STAR test. But we are where we are. The pandemic hit, everyone took a slide, and so now we have a new baseline. But we also know that we cannot remediate our way out of this. 85% of the students at Fort Worth ISD live at or below the federal poverty line. They are economically disadvantaged, and we have to accelerate, not remediate. What does accelerate mean? High quality classroom instruction, differentiated support systems for those students who need the extra help, high quality tutoring, whether it's in person or whether it's small group or individual, and more learning time. Last summer, in fact, we were very pleased. We had 15,000 kids participate in summer school. Normally that number is 5,000, so it's triple the number. We want to, in some communities, we are offering a extended school day, extended school year, and we have 14 days of Saturday school. Our Saturday Learning Quest with 3,000 of our kids from first, second, and third grade catching up on the basics that they may have missed during the pandemic. But acceleration is not just academics, it's also social and emotional. Some kids dealt with trauma during that time. Parents got disconnected, so family engagement, parent partnership, and connectivity. I never thought I was going to be in the Wi-Fi business, but we have now created new Wi-Fi towers, constructed new Wi-Fi towers in Eastern Hills, in Morningside, in Stop 6, and in Rosemont. Those are 4 communities that were zip codes that were among the highest economically disadvantaged. We also distributed 4,000 modems to homes in those coverage areas, not only for our students, but for everyone in the house, so they have high quality, robust, and reliable Wi-Fi. It's not just for students in academic performance, it's for adults. When I was coming up and you applied for a job, you walked into this business, you filled out the sheet of paper, and you returned it tomorrow. Today, all of that happens online. Some may ask, why are you going for a bond? Didn't I read that you got a bunch of federal dollars and you just passed a TRE last year? Well, yes, our voters did pass the TRE last year, and those dollars are being used to compensate teachers, to pay for our PPE and our COVID response, all of the materials, and for the Wi-Fi towers that we talked about. If you look at the arrow at the bottom, it says capital improvement not allowed. So these dollars cannot be used for capital improvement. School finance is complicated. There are constraints, but there are specific buckets. So these dollars cannot be used to build schools or to improve classrooms. Do facilities matter? Well, both U.S. Department of Education and Harvard have concluded that quality facilities do impact student achievement. Things like good lighting, acoustics, air quality, of course, inviting spaces, making students have a positive self-belief, technology across the campus, and also, in today's world, reassuring students that they're safe and secure. We want to make sure that our students feel proud about where they go to school. Let's take a look at at what we have done in the 2017. We know how to do this. We know how to make the old new again. In fact, I compare this to those TV shows where they take the old house and fix it up. This is Eastern Hills High School, built in 1957. That's what it used to look like. This is what it looks like today, almost a completely different school. And we didn't knock it down, we just renovated it and had instructional spaces, collaborative spaces, media center, library, new office, classrooms that are at the state guidelines, science labs, robotics, all of those things at all of our high schools. That's just one example. Pascal High School is our largest high school, with additions in 1950s, 70s, and 80s. And today it also has grand entry, secure vestibule, all of those instructional spaces and collaborative spaces, making it look more like a college campus. Where I am today, OD Wyatt is completely transformed and something that we're very, very proud of. Another example is Western Hills High School, built in 1968. That's what it used to look like. This is what it looks like today. We had a Rediscover Fort Worth event there. We went and visited with students. The looks on their faces were so positive, and it was something to be very, very proud of. Probably one of our biggest changes from the curb appeal is Southwest High School, built in 1967. That's Southwest before, and they're Southwest today. Again, same robotics rooms, science labs, high quality classrooms, hallways, bathrooms, cafeteria, media center. But also in this example, we have the College and Career Go Center pushed to the front of the campus. So really sending that message of college, career, military readiness for all of our students, particularly those in our freshman academy. We asked our middle schoolers, what do you need? And here's what they said. They said, make our buildings better, improve the buildings. They're quite old. We need improvement in the building. And you know what? They were right. Here are pictures of Fort Worth ISD middle schools in the year 2021, just a few months ago. That's Meacham Middle School on the right, Daggett Middle School on the left, lots of deferred maintenance, and these schools need a great deal of investment. Another great example, we have 8,000 students going to school today in portable trailers. 8,000 students. Prior to the 2017 bond, that number was 12,000. We got it down to 8,000, but 8,000 is still a huge number. 8,000 students in portable trailers, that's more students in total that go to Everman ISD, twice the number that go to Castleberry. Fort Worth has an entire school district in portable trailers. We want to change that. All students deserve a high quality and adequate learning place. And McLean Middle School on the right, that auditorium is representative of all of our auditoriums that look the same way when a lot of the adults in Fort Worth went to school there years ago. Two more quick examples. Yeah, Daggett Middle School on the left. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I said it looked like my high school.
Yeah, exactly. and that's what we're trying to change. Bring them up to speed. So TEA has education specs. Only 17% of our middle schools actually meet the state requirements, state guidelines. Fort Worth ISD actually has a long-range facilities master plan group, and that number is actually even worse because our standards are a little bit higher than the state's. So only 4% of our middle schools meet that, 17% at the state, 4% locally. We did a conditions assessment of typical classrooms, science labs, special education rooms, and media center libraries. I don't need to tell you that this chart, red is bad and green is good, and there's a heck of a lot more red. Why middle schools? Well, we had a broken feeder pattern, a patchwork of inefficient attendance patterns that evolved over the past 20 years. This board took it on after 20 years of not looking at this in a comprehensive way, and we redesigned this. In fact, the poster child was Rosemont Middle School that actually sent 8th graders to 4 different high schools. One middle school sent 8th graders to 4 different high schools, right here to OD Wyatt, to Pascal, to South Hills, and to Southwest. Today, we have 14 solid aligned feeder patterns with a high school, a middle school or 2, and half a dozen elementaries. This helps for alignment in academics, alignment in fine arts, and alignment in athletics. Academics, if the department chair in math or science wants to work with the middle school teachers, the elementaries, there is that connection. Fine arts. It's no surprise that the choir or the marching band or the mariachi at the high school, if that's good, typically it's supported by a good middle school. And of course, athletics with coaches at the high school working with middle school, working with elementary PE teachers. It not only is more efficient, it's more effective. The high school bond in 2017, again, 77% went to the high schools on budget, on time. But we believe all students of Fort Worth ISD deserve adequate facilities. Our students deserve the same thing that students in the suburbs in South Lake and in Aledo have. And we're very fortunate that all three chambers of commerce are supportive. The Fort Worth Chamber, the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber, and the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber. And we were talking about earlier with regard to historically underutilized businesses, our women-owned businesses, our African-American-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses. Most municipalities have that number being about 25%. Fort Worth ISD, it's 42%. Helps everybody. So it's not just the big companies, it's also companies that are owned and employed by individuals in our school district, our parents and community. So by now you're probably wondering, okay, so what is in the bond? Well, there are 4 questions. So voters are going to have the opportunity to vote up or down on 4 different questions. The first is Proposition A, B, C, and D. Proposition A deals with school construction and renovation. School construction renovation. Why? Because 60% of our schools were built before 1960. Old schools make spacing difficult, makes ventilation challenging, and I believe that infrastructure is equity. Infrastructure is equal opportunity. HVAC ventilation in a pandemic is extremely important. Security and communications, safe vestibules, keeping folks, we need to know who's in our schools. But basically, it's the total envelope of the building, the roofing, the windows, electrical, lighting, plumbing. I'm sorry. In addition to the middle schools, we're looking at elementaries. So in West Fort Worth, there's growth at one of the overcrowded elementaries, need to build a new elementary there. But we said, wait, why are we only building new elementaries out in the newer growing parts of town? We need to put elementaries in communities that have not seen new elementary construction in decades. And that's Stop 6, that's Eastern Hills, that's some areas of South Fort Worth. We want to do replacement elementaries there. So a new elementary school on a new piece of property out in the west, but also much like we did at Van Zandt Gwynn or Washington Heights up on the north side, do the same thing in Stop 6 in Eastern Hills and South Fort Worth. But identify with the community which elementary school should be a replacement elementary school. And if we do that, then we also will have space for 4 early childhood centers to help our future students from birth, from 0 to 3 years old, have high quality preschool. Our parents and families, but also our faculty and staff, community members, all will be able to bring their babies to early childhood centers across the district, 4 of them. Proposition B is fine arts. So we fixed the front door, so to speak, the secure vestibule, the grand entry at our high schools. You may have seen Dunbar as another great example. So when someone comes over to your house, you bring them in the front door and you take them to the living room. Well, our front door looks great, but our auditorium, our living room does not. You saw those pictures. So this $98 million, the first one was $1.2 billion. This $98 million would allow us to upgrade all auditoriums, high school and middle school, seating, lighting, audio, the curtains, basically all of the aesthetic and architectural improvements, but also work on our band rooms, all of the physical plant for our performing arts, band, mariachi, choir, orchestra, drama, art, dance. This one would really bring our extracurricular and fine arts programs up to a good solid adequacy level, because some kids come to school for the academics, some kids come to school for the extracurricular activities. Athletics is another great example. The third is our neighborhood athletic facility. So originally we just wanted to have 3 propositions: schools, fine arts, athletics. But the Texas legislature requires that if you have stadiums in your athletics, that has to be a separate question. So we still have schools, fine arts, athletics, but athletics is now broken into 2. 3 neighborhood athletic facilities, which is a stadium, 5,000 seat stadium, competition gymnasiums, and track and field. Right now we have three. We have Farrington Field, we have Clark Stadium, and we have Scarborough Hanley Field. So three fields for 14 high schools. So whenever we're hosting a game, our high schools are virtually playing at a neutral location. Well, we wanted to have neighborhood stadiums embedded into the community from a regional approach, perhaps one in the north side, one on the west side, one on the south side, and then spruce up the two on the east side, Clark and Scarborough Hanley, and of course Farrington. It's funny when we look at our current situation with 18,000 seats at Farrington, 15,000 seats at Clark, and 5,000 seats at Scarborough Hanley. Our coaches actually lobby to play at Hanley Field because it's smaller. There's more of a feeling of a crowd, more energy, more feeling of a community event, and our parents want that in all parts of the city. Proposition D is school site athletic facilities, middle school gymnasiums, middle school sports fields, turf, synthetic turf on all of our boys baseball and girls softball fields, making Goldstein, the baseball stadium and the softball fields, places where we can have tournaments, high quality facilities, lots of revenue, lots of energy, lots of parent time is spent with clubs or school tournaments going to other communities like in Frisco and in South Lake and in Aledo, other places. We want to keep those events here in Fort Worth. It's 2021. Wilkerson Greenis Activity Center should be ADA accessible. We believe that that's the right thing to do, and replace the turfs at the football fields in a life cycle strategy. So making sure that we're keeping those up to date. Finally, lots of folks will ask, why now? Why are you going for a bond? Well, as I said, we're staying on cadence, catching up a lot of the deferred maintenance and construction that we're not able to do. We did a bond in 2013, 4 years later, 2017, 4 years later again would be this November, 2021. Another good reason is that it's a good business decision. Historic low interest rates. Also, I'm sure you've read or seen in media that there is an expectation for inflation, the rising costs not only of commodities but also labor. And as I said, we're blessed with strong property values, so there is no tax rate increase. So Monday, October the 18th, early voting starts. Election day, as I said, is less than 20 days away on November the 2nd. And Dante, that completes my presentation. I'd be happy to entertain any questions, comments, or suggestions.
Yes, sir. So one, thank you for the presentation. It's really a lot of good information. So our Facebook chat is blowing up right now. And the hot topic is from a few people is taxes. Mm-hmm. So can you speak to what? Because I think you mentioned there at the end that the taxes will not raise. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's absolutely correct, and probably would not change whether or not this bond passed. But no, they would not increase at all. Now the tax rate would not increase. So whatever tax rate you're paying, what I think is confusing there for some people is if the value of your home increases, and I've heard lots of people like the conversation to have equity in their house, and they like it when the value of their home increases. So from that perspective, that could happen, but the actual rate that we would have to pay would not increase. Right now, for our debt service, it's 29 cents, and that would remain the same.
So is that the same no matter whether the bond is approved or not approved? Like,
well, the board would have the discretion to lower the tax rate, but stability in the INS rate, which is the debt service rate, is one measure of good financial management. And Fort Worth ISD is in a great position. We're financially stable, so that portion of the tax rate is likely to remain the same, and those dollars would be used to retire existing bonds. Kind of paid like when you pay down your mortgage, if you do an extra payment or something like that. But I think the interesting thing to think about in Fort Worth, the reason I can say that we're in good shape is the debt that we do have is much lower than our peer districts. So there's only actually one large urban district that has a lower debt per pupil that we do, and that's Austin ISD, which is at $14,800. We're at $14,900 debt per pupil. Arlington next door is at $18,000. So we're right at just south of 15,000, let's say. We're at $15,000 per student. Arlington's up to 18,000 per student in debt. El Paso 20,000, Dallas 24,009, and San Antonio's 26,000. So we're in pretty good. We're in very good shape, actually, comparatively speaking. And this bond would result in no change in the tax rate.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So they're kind of going back and forth on the taxes, but let me ask a little bit different question, right? So people know about bonds, right? So you got bail bonds, you got construction bonds, you got James bond. So can you just break down what a school bond is and why does that have to be voted upon in an election?
So there's really kind of, different parts of a school budget. The first is your regular M&O, kind of maintenance and operations, the general operations of a school district. And in Texas, part of that is funded locally, and part of that is funded from the state. If you're a property-rich district and you have high values, Austin's a great example, then the state amount comes down. And if you're a property-poor district, the state amount increases. So everyone gets about the same money there. Then you have federal dollars, and those are based on additional student need, whether you have students who are special education, require additional service. You have students who don't speak English, require additional service. You have students who live in poverty. Fort Worth ISD, 85% of our students actually qualify for free and reduced lunch. And qualify for free and reduced lunch is educational talk. It's code for live at or below the federal poverty line. And to live at or below the federal poverty line or qualify for free and reduced lunch is a formula which is around $30,000 a year for a family of four. So it's a family of four living on $30,000 a year. That's the case for 85% of the kids in Fort Worth ISD, 4 out of 5 kids, more than 4 out of 5. So the bond then is able so the bond is neither of those. Bond is actually borrowing money, like you take out a mortgage over 30 years or 20 years, and you use that money to build permanent things, permanent structures. You can't take bond money and pay teachers, or you can't take bond money and it's not advisable to buy computers or things like that you're going to be replacing in 2 or 3 years, because why would you take out a 20-year or 30-year loan on a computer that's going to last 2 or 3 years? But we know what does last 20 or 30 years? Our buildings, our structures. In fact, Fort Worth ISD, they last 100 years. A lot of our high schools are 1930s and 1940s. So as I said, 60% of our schools built before 1960. So so bonds is actually borrowing money, just like you borrow from a mortgage, and we sell these bonds on Wall Street. In fact, the interest rates are so low right now. We're in such a good place. The most recent bond sale that we conducted just this last July had an interest rate of 2.1%. I think any of us would be interested in a 2.1% loan on construction bond.
Oh yeah. So let me ask you this, are there any, what are the, I guess we talked about a lot of pros. Are there any cons, any things to look out for when kind of going down the path of bonds?
Well, I think if the interest rates increase, then money is more expensive. If this bond is not successful, then it's only going to get more expensive. Again, that's assuming that interest rates will increase. I don't have a crystal ball, but history and financial advisors predict that the interest rates are not going to stay this low forever. At some point, they're going to go back up, and inflation hits all of us. So it's one of those situations where we have been advised it's a good business decision to go now. If we were to wait a year, 2 years, 5 years, we would be able to pay for a lot less. Another great example is in 2017. Our needs assessment, when we looked at all of our buildings and all of the needs, all of those pictures that I showed you, they showed up in that report. We had $1.6 billion of need. but in 2017, we called for a $750 million bond. So we just kind of chipped away at it. We left $850 million of need on the table, and roofs don't heal themselves. The auditoriums don't magically get better, and HVAC and the like. So here's an opportunity for us to address the lion's share of that and bring our middle schools up to par. Then who knows if it's another 4 years, 2025, when we tackle our 83 elementaries or something like that. That would be the decision for a future board.
Okay, perfect. So switching gears a little bit also, you talked about the hub participation on the last, the 2017 bond was at
right
42%. So how did you guys get it there, and how do you plan on keeping it? How do you keep it or increase it?
We've been very, very intentional, making sure that any firm that applies, that is something that we score them on, that we incentivize. We also work very, very hard when at our fairs, when we go out and advertise that we will be doing an RFQ or an RFP, making sure that is communicated. We work very, very strong, very, very closely with the chambers, Black Chamber, Hispanic Chamber, but also just going directly to the companies, and also letting the larger companies know that we are requiring a joint venture where they partner with another either woman-owned or African American-owned or Hispanic-owned. We're very, very proud of those numbers, and it's something that I value, both quality and diversity, because that's putting our parents to work, it's putting our community to work, it's bringing money here in Fort Worth for our Fort Worth families. And as long as I'm here, it's something that's going to be a high priority for me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. So, man, they're going in on these taxes, Ken.
Yeah.
They really want to talk more about the taxes, but I don't. Anything you want to add to that? I'll let you kind of just.
No, just that. Yeah, I know that that as you're I can't see the chat, but I'm certain that my taxes go up every year,
right.
Because your house is worth more every year, and that's kind of a catch-22. Unless you're 65 years and older, where your tax freeze at that area, at that number, excuse me. So again, this is a situation where if we care about investing in our kids, building the future workforce, doing it in this environment when we have historic low interest rates, I think is a good business decision. Waiting later will only make it more expensive. And who knows in the future if the tax rate would have to increase. Right now, it doesn't.
And on average, how many years does a district normally have bonds? Every 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the before the 20, again, way before my time, I was superintendent in Phoenix and back when this happened. But I think there was a 2007 bond, and then waited a little while in 2013. Since the 2013, it's been every 4 years. Okay. 2013, 2017, and now 2021. If this passes.
Okay, and then one question that was asked is, what percentage of the bond are we required to pay back?
All of it, but over time. So and that's another thing for the financial managers. Some say, when you have low interest rates, you want a long term, you want a 30-year term because it's so cheap. Others say, you know what? No, let's pay it off fast. We're in a great place because, as I said, we have lower debt. Our credit card balance is lower. Just use that as an example than Arlington, El Paso, Dallas ISD, San Antonio ISD. So the debt that we owe, we're really low on that list, which is a good thing. And that's why our bond rating is so high. When you have a high bond rating, high credit score, you can borrow money for cheaper.
Let's see. Next question says, will the tax burden be accessed by ability to pay? No, they're talking to each other. Never mind.
I'm not a tax expert. I went to school to be a school teacher, yeah. So
yeah, you good. They're kind of going back and forth in there. So let me ask you this again. In terms of the bond, and like I say, with our district being 85% under the poverty rate, right? Like how do you see, I guess, if this bond goes and is approved, do you see anything happening there and then changing that, or what does that look like?
I mean, education is the only way to break the cycle of poverty, in a systemic way, high quality education. And we are extremely fortunate here in Fort Worth that not only are we focused on college, but we're also focused on career. We
Mhm.
have the highest percentage of high demand, high wage jobs for high school grads of any large city. So kids who are graduating from our CTE programs, which have seen a 10% increase over the last 3 years, so 30 compounded 30% increase. Those kids who graduate with a license or with a certificate can go out and earn a family sustaining wage of $50,000 to $60,000. We have kids who are graduating from this high school who go out and get a job and they're making more than their parents because they have a CTE certification, an opportunity. We're working with our aerospace, with the American Airlines, excuse me, with our air transportation, with American Airlines, with Bell. We're working with construction engineering firms like yours. We're working with the hospitality division, architecture, engineering. There's so many opportunities. It is a great time to be a middle school or a high school kid in North Texas because this economy is just humming. And if we can invest in our students as a future workforce and future leaders that they are, we are going to see increased prosperity.
So with that, so this bond doesn't touch CTE right now, or does it?
Well,
How does?
yes, it does. It
Okay,
does because remember this. So 2017 touched CTE dramatically because it was high school, and
right,
that's where most of our CTE is.
right.
But what we're doing with the Tarrant to and through post secondary college or trainings, we are bringing that down to the middle school.
Okay.
Middle school is so important. I was a high school teacher, and I would always joke that kids, it's serious. It's not a joke. Kids, they don't drop out of high school at 11th grade. They drop out of high school in the 7th grade. They just don't tell anybody. That's when they become
Right.
disconnected emotionally, socially, academically behind, and they stay with it until they can legally step out. So from my perspective, identifying our students who are in the greatest need, providing high quality opportunities for all students, those students on the college track, those students on the career track, and both tracks have to be high quality. In fact, some of our highest performing kids are in our CTE programs. But building that and getting that down, penetrating down into the middle school is absolutely essential.
Okay. So would that look like? So you showed that I forget what it was, the chart to where you guys kind of realigned the high schools and middle schools.
Yes.
Will it work similar to that? So say for instance, I think Wyatt has construction.
Yes.
So would Rosemont, if that's one of the middle schools, would they have like a construction CTE kind of
Well,
flow into?
that's exactly that. It's alignment. Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly. And actually, Rosemont is we fixed that. Rosemont was in this picture. They now go to South Hills High School.
Okay.
But Forest Oak. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, absolutely. And you're exactly right. The good football team at high school has a good football middle school. The good construction program at high school has an apprentice construction program at middle school. The good choir, it's about a vertical alignment, whether it's academic, whether it's fine arts, or whether it's athletics, and that's the beauty of this feeder pattern alignment. And this bond, if it's successful, will focus on the middle. Then in the future, we certainly would want to take a look at the elementaries, probably expand the early childhood, because we know that the kids who are kindergarten ready, that percentage also can read at the 3rd grade at about the same percentage. So we really want to touch our youngest community members as well, future
Can, can
students.
you can you speak on that? Because I think you mentioned that in the report about the early childhood. What is that?
Yeah.
Is there some ties with the bond and early childhood, or kind of
Yes.
what does that look like?
Yes, that would be again, supported by all 3 chambers. Our hub numbers look good. It would be right here. So in addition, so this is the Proposition A is the big one. It's 1.2. The others are more or less 100 million each. This one does all the middle schools, builds 4 new elementary school buildings, which creates space for 4 um, uh, early childhood centers. So early childhood centers kind of embedded into our elementaries. I sent a couple of my team members to my colleague Dr. McFarland down in Crowley, and they do a very nice job of embedding 0 to 3 for the babies up to 3-year-old preschools into existing elementaries. And if we're able to do that, that would help our parents, that would help our community members, that would help grandparents who are watching kids. Our teachers and staff can bring their kids as well. Again, building a good building. You're in the construction business. You can't build a good building unless you have a strong foundation. Same thing is true with academics.
Perfect. Appreciate that. And then someone asked, and we're going to take maybe a few more questions. Fine arts program. Can you speak on, so I know about the mariachi band over at Northside. What does that look like kind of with this bond program and yeah, just talk about fine arts programs.
Well, it's same thing. So the high schools have already been addressed, but good high school programs, whether it's choir, whether it's orchestra, whether it's dance, if they have a great kind of minor league system, or the middle school has the same kinds of facilities and same kinds of infrastructure. Again, remember, infrastructure is equity. So what we want to do is align those solid programs from the high school to the middle school. I mean, again, you mentioned the mariachi program. The middle school mariachi at JP Elder is very good, and that's not an accident that feeds into a good high school. Same thing with the Southwest and their band, or the choir at Dunbar. I mean, what we really want to do is create a vertical alignment where the middle schools support the high quality programs at the high school.
All right. Another question that we just got, will there be science and agriculture or medical building added to the impoverished communities to stimulate education?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that again, those are community decisions where those programs go, and they're also business. We just can't do programs because we like them or because that's the way it was done when we went to school. What's happening now with effective programs is we go out to industry, we say what employee characteristics and talents and skills do you need, and then we backwards map the program to the high school and now to the middle school. So we're not just putting out people who have a skill that's not marketable. We want to say, hey businesses, in the next 5-7 years, what are you looking for, and then design our program to fit those needs. Again, looking at our business partners and the chambers, the Black Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, Fort Worth Chamber are all helping facilitate those conversations with our local businesses.
All right. So with that, I don't see any more questions right now. Your kind of parting words last. What's coming outside of the bond? I know the bond is kind of the thing that's being talked about right now. Is there anything else coming down the pipeline or something that we, the community, should know about that's happening with the ISD right now?
I mean, I would just say, we, like every large urban district who serves economically disadvantaged students, have seen a tremendous drop off academically as a result of the pandemic. In fact, I was at a talk with Commissioner Morath, who said we have a little over 5 million students in public schools in Texas. He said there's an additional 1 million students who are behind a grade level as a result of the pandemic and having to learn virtually at home. So we need to keep our schools open. We need to keep them safe. We need in-person instruction. We need to expand the school day, expand the school year, have Saturday school, but make it not entertaining, make it engaging so students want to be there, and entertaining, and really double down. The Katrina hurricane, remember when all those families were displaced to Texas? Many of those students took 4 years to catch up from that year that they lost, and some of them in mathematics never caught up. And so we cannot allow that to happen here in Fort Worth or anywhere really, but focus on Fort Worth. We can't let a public health global pandemic crisis turn into a generational education crisis. And that's going to take all of us pulling together and having quality facilities, adequate facilities, kids in classrooms with real technology, not in portable trailers, is a part of that.
Okay. I appreciate it. And yeah, so Frontline, man, I mean, you've heard it here. And again, this isn't a vote yes or a vote no. You choose what, how you want to do it. If you have more questions, Ken, is there someone they can reach out to?
Absolutely. FWISD.org/bond. So just like Fort Worth ISD, FWISD.org//bond, BOND.
Okay, and then we'll put that in the chat, guys, so you can have that. Which, yeah, so the main thing is get out and vote, right? So whether you're for it, whether you're against it, get out and vote, and understand that, what this means, not just for taxes, but ultimately for the kids of the city, of this community, and what it looks like for them as they, matriculate through the school district. And again, like I said, those seats that Dr. Scribner showed look like seats from my high school, man. So yeah, it's I would say upgrade if they haven't already been done at Dunbar. Right. So again, appreciate it, Frontline. Thank y'all. Tune in. We're having, what do we got going on? I should know this. We have a garden day happening on the 23rd. That's next Saturday. So not this coming Saturday, next Saturday. So yeah, check out for that. We'll have more information on that. And then the next forum we'll be hosting will deal with domestic violence. And you guys will have some good panelists to come on and talk about that as well. So again, Dr. Scribner, thank you. Appreciate you. Frontline. See you guys next time.
Thank you very much.
Sir.